Hey there, BCC. In my video from Monday, I was talking about how sometimes the thing that you need in order to grow and to flourish and to flower and to produce fruit in your life is difficulty or cutting or pain or hurt or grief or all that kind of stuff. And in that video, I talked about how the fruit that God wants to create in you is the fruit of love. And if you want to kind of expand on that, what the fruit of love is the fruit of the Spirit. Now, I think in the video, I couldn't remember whether or not I'd got all the fruit of the Spirit right. So I'm going to read them to you. They come from Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. Let me read you the fruit of the Spirit. This is the kind of thing that God is desiring to see grow in all humans, in all people. Here it goes. Galatians chapter 5, verse 22. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. This is the kind of thing that God wants to see grow in His people. It's the fruit that should be evident in anyone who is connected to God. Actually, maybe you could put it this way. Wherever you see those things, wherever you see love, joy, peace, forbearance, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control, whenever you see those things, you can be 100% sure that the Spirit is at work, because they are the things that come from the work of the Spirit. Are you with me? Now, over the coming days, the prefects are going to be looking at each one of these bits, these facets of the fruit that God is wanting to grow in us. But before they do, I thought I'd just offer some introductory thoughts. I've already offered a couple of introductory thoughts, but let me offer a couple more. I remember hearing a talk by the great pastor Tim Keller years ago, and he said, here's a few things that we know about the fruit of the Spirit from Galatians chapter 5. The first thing we know is this, is the fruit should grow symmetrically. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's often been said, and you've probably heard it said if you've gone to church and anyone's preached on this passage, which they probably have because so many people preach on this passage. It's often been said that the word for fruit there in verse 22, but the fruit of the Spirit, is singular, which, I'm not an English teacher, but which means he's not talking about fruits. These are not multiple different kinds of fruit that grow on a tree. They are the fruit. It's one fruit. So what that means is, what should happen if the Spirit is at work is you should see these fruits growing together. And if they're not growing together, then things kind of get out of balance. So if you have kindness but not goodness, then it doesn't kind of work. It's not exactly what God wants for you. So what Keller is saying is, because this is one fruit, because it's singular, what we want to see is each of these things growing in our life kind of symmetrically, growing at the same time. So you're growing in love, you're also growing in kindness, you're also growing in gentleness, you're growing in forbearance, you're growing in peace, and all those things are kind of growing at the same time. So when you think about them, don't think about all these different fruits that might grow on some kind of magical tree that grows all these different types of fruit. Think of the one fruit with many different kind of facets. Again, if you had to say what the one fruit really was, it's just the fruit of love. And this is what John picks up in 1 John chapter 4, if you want to pick it up. So they grow symmetrically. Now, the other thing that Keller says, which is really interesting, is he says the fruit in some ways grow spontaneously. And what does that mean? Well, he makes this point where he says, how much time do you think a orange tree thinks about growing oranges? How much time does an orange tree think about growing oranges? Does it sit there and think to itself, I need to grow oranges, I need to grow oranges, I need to grow oranges? No! It's just an orange tree. And the orange tree stands there and it soaks up all the nutrients that it has, and it takes up all the sun and all the water, and eventually the orange tree will grow oranges. He says a similar thing for the fruit of the Spirit. The Spirit is at work in your life when your eyes are fixed towards God through Jesus. And when you're doing that, the fruit will grow spontaneously. Now, it might not happen straight away. I read this thing when I was studying for the vine passage in John's Gospel that we spoke about on Monday. I read this thing that says sometimes a vineyard, like a grape vineyard, sometimes the gardener will cut it back every year for 5 years, so it doesn't produce fruit for 5 years. It's just about to produce fruit, and then the gardener cuts it back and it doesn't produce any fruit. It's like 5 years before it even produces any fruit. But it does produce fruit eventually, because it is the right kind of tree, because it's a vine. It is going to get a whole bunch of grapes on it. And I think that's what Keller's saying, don't concentrate on growing fruit, thinking, I've got to grow this fruit. Just concentrate on being a fruit tree. Concentrate on being connected or abiding in God, and eventually the fruit will begin to grow. Are you with me? One last thing that he says. So it grows, what did I say? Symmetrically, spontaneously. And finally he says it sometimes grows inconsistently. That is, you might find that years ago you felt like you were smashing these fruit, this fruit. You were growing in all of them symmetrically and wonderfully. You all started growing and it was going great. But then you might find that you go through a patch where you're not growing so much, and things are getting frustrating, and you're annoyed, and you don't seem to, because all the stuff that's going on around you, you don't seem to be able to kind of grow that fruit in the way that you used to. So sometimes it grows inconsistently. And what you need to do in those moments is exactly what I said before. Don't concentrate on the fruit at all. Just concentrate on being a fruit tree, a human that God has created to love Him, to love the world around Him, that God has created to grow this kind of fruit for the benefit of you, but also for the benefit of the people around you. Yeah, hopefully that provides you with a reasonably interesting introduction to the fruit of the Spirit. Can't wait to hear all you wonderful prefects speaking about it in the coming days. Righto. Love to all.